Yeah, where are you coming from today? Austin, is it?
Dallas, yeah, pretty. It's like 3 hours, but 3 hours away. So yeah, Dallas. I mean, for us, if it's under 60 degrees Fahrenheit, it's freezing. So I'm freezing my butt off.
Okay, right. What's the golf season like over there? Are you guys able to play like right through to the winter?
Yeah, we can play. I would say up until about Christmas, and then Christmas to March is it's pretty cold. We don't play a ton in January, February, but other than that, it's kind of a 10-month golf season, which is awesome.
Okay, that's amazing. Yeah, because here in Ireland it's kind of like a strict like 7, 8 months max, and then 4 months, sometimes five, that you just kind of have to down
Yeah.
tools and go to the driving range, and or if you want to play, you have to put up with like temporary greens and lots of plug balls. So
Yeah, that's kind of how it is up in like, Michigan, Minnesota, like up north in the States. But down here it's yeah, like it'll be 80 degrees tomorrow, which is crazy.
okay, and you still have like the woolly hat on. I love
Well, today
it.
it was like 35 in the morning, so
Oh, right.
I got a
Okay.
little.
It does get pretty cold. I see.
Yeah. And this is the time of year where it kind of bounces back and forth. It's like 35 one day and then 80 the next and you're like, we
Oh,
need to
wow.
figure this out, guys.
Right. Big variance. I see. Yeah. So Kyle, I've actually been a big fan of your work for a long time now. Probably started listening to the first cut about 10 years ago. And yeah, I was pretty devastated when he actually left the guys a few months ago, left them fending for themselves. But yeah, so like you've written like 3 books on golf.
Hmm.
You have your normal sport newsletter. You're doing
Yep.
podcasts again now, which I'm loving. And yeah, I really like your content, how you kind of blend, it's not just facts and data driven. There's a lot of humanity, humor, and kind of like storytelling and meaning to it.
Right.
And I heard you say before that you kind of use golf as a medium to kind of talk about life.
Hmm.
And I thought that was kind of cool. I was wondering if you could elaborate on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you want to start right now?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, great. I didn't
Yeah.
know if we were already recording. Yeah.
Yeah, no, we're
Everybody gets
recording.
a peek behind the scenes here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that phrase came to me via my wife, actually. I had never thought about the way that because you don't want to think too hard about you know, what you're working on, about your art. It's once you start going down that rabbit hole, it can get kind of weird in a hurry. And she was like, "Oh, you don't really write about golf. You write about life, and golf is just sort of the medium that you use to do that." And I started thinking about it, and I was like, "Oh, that's actually very true." I think that I guess if I have a superpower in all of this, which I wouldn't claim to have, but if I do, it would be that I think most humans are wired. Uh, Everybody's very different in their personalities and everything, but I think deep down we have a lot of the same desires and hopes and dreams and fears and all of those things. And so, when Rory wins the Masters, you can't really, you and I can't relate to that. We're never going to win the
Mhm.
Masters, right? We're never
Yeah.
going to win our anything in professional golf. But I know what it feels like to hope for something and to achieve it, or to hope for something and to not achieve it. And so I think there's like more of a relatability there than maybe people realize at first glance. And I try to tap into that with my writing and sort of how I think about the game and talk about it throughout the year.
Okay, beautiful. Yeah, I think it's such a wonderful sport to play for kids. Like growing up, it teaches you like integrity and, learning to get along with different people and like teaches you resilience and kind of honor because you keep your own score. So there's kind of, yeah, it's a wonderful kind of life sport, I guess, right?
Totally, totally. And that's, it's something that, I have 4 kids and they're not totally into it. They like baseball and dance and American football and all
Or
these different
glamorous
things.
sports.
Exactly, exactly. What they see, although that we have golf on TV a lot, so I'm not sure why they haven't why they haven't fallen for it more. But it is a golf is so cool because, and I've seen people come back around that are my age now of like, oh, golf is something that I can keep playing into my 40s, 50s, 60s. My dad is 70 and he plays, and it is such a lifelong, and you're still learning at 70. You're still learning about the game, you're still learning about yourself. At least that's the hope. And so I think that is like, my son and I watch Monday Night Football or we watch the World Series. we're not going to play baseball on, or we're not going to play tackle football the next day, or at
Hmm.
least I'm not. You know, he might eventually, but golf is such a unique thing in that everything you're watching, you can also participate in, which is very cool and it's very unique. And I think it plays into that idea of it's the most human, I think, of all the major sports.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like me and you could go out tomorrow and like play, hit a shot, or if not, play a hole that like the greats would actually be proud of and they'd take.
Yeah,
And there's very few other sports that you can kind of say that, right?
totally.
So yeah, it's
Yeah,
cool
it's crazy. We're not hitting a penalty kick that anybody is proud of in soccer.
for
So,
sure. Yeah, no, that's definitely real. Yeah. Something I wanted to ask you actually, I know you're like a content creator. You're essentially like an artist, so you're like producing your own stuff.
yeah.
And is there any practices you participate in to cultivate focus or like to kind of inspire you, or when you're trying to think of, a hot take, is there anything,
Mm.
I don't know, like a daily practice you engage in?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I one of the things that I try to do, and I'm not as consistent with it as I should be. Well, there's two things. I try three things really. I guess I would say I try to take a ton of walks. So the weather's usually, we were just talking about this, but the weather's usually pretty good here where I live in Dallas. So when the kids are in school, my wife and I go on a bunch of walks. I think that if you read anything about any artist or writer historically, walking is like monumental for just clarity of thought and yeah, clearing your head, getting your body moving.
Mm.
I think that is incredibly important. I
Are
try to
you listening to stuff when you're walking, or are you just going at like raw dogging it?
uh mostly raw dogging it,
Yeah.
although usually I'll have somebody with me. And so not always, like usually it's my wife and I, but if not, then I will normally I'd say it's 50-50. Like a lot of times I won't be listening because I'll just be thinking and inevitably whatever I was trying to figure out on paper will come to me while I'm on my walk. So I
Right.
carry a notebook and I try to like write that down because I'm
Oh,
gonna
very cool.
forget it.
Okay.
I'm gonna forget it by the time I get back to
Yeah.
my desk. So that's one thing. I try to read as much as possible. I just read and read and read and read. And whether it's transcripts of interviews or articles or just anything that gets produced and published, I
Right.
think if you're not, you can honestly, you can dig through transcripts. This is a Malcolm Gladwell thing. I don't know if you know or read Malcolm Gladwell,
Yeah.
but he says you can learn a ton from transcripts. And I believe that. If
Mm.
I read Shane Lowry's transcript or Scotty Scheffler's transcript, like there's a lot of good stuff in there that
Mhm.
just gets bypassed because um, I don't know, people are just aren't paying attention to it. And so I'll pull stuff out of there a lot. Um, and then I think the third thing is I always start my day by journaling, um, praying and reading the Bible. And those are just almost like triggers to get me into the day. And so I'm kind of like ready to go and ready to take on the day. So that's kind of how I don't know that I said a bunch of things, but those are some of the things that I use for getting me into my day, having clarity of thought and trying to produce my best work.
Okay, beautiful. Yeah, just on the topic of books there, I was wondering if you have any recommendation for, we'll say, a golf related book and just a general, fiction, non-fiction book that maybe you could recommend.
Oh gosh, I do. I'm gonna have to. Can we come back to that? I'll pull up what I've been reading recently, and
Yeah,
we'll
sure.
come back to that.
I
Okay.
always kind of draw a blank when people ask me that question. I've read so many books, but I always just default to the one I'm kind of reading at the moment
Yeah,
because I
totally.
guess it's fresh, right?
Yeah, that's what I do as well. I try to read a lot of fiction, honestly. I have a
Oh,
friend
interesting.
who talks about the importance of reading fiction to not lose. He reads fiction for the sake of empathy because normally when you're reading nonfiction, you're reading about people that are pretty similar to you from a socioeconomic standpoint.
Hmm.
And when you're reading nonfiction, you're taken into these worlds that you don't have any knowledge of, you don't have any experience of, and so it can build up a lot of empathy, which I think is really meaningful and really important when it comes to writing. Yeah, so as I look through my list, I've been reading a ton of fiction recently. One of my favorite books that I've read over the last, I would say, 2 years is called The Psychology of Money,
Oh,
and
okay.
it's by a guy named Morgan Housel. He's a financial writer, but it's not about money at all. It's not about finances. It's about how people are like what's in our heads, what's in our hearts, and how that influences the way that you handle money and the way that you invest and the way that you do all these things. So in a lot of ways, it's what I'm trying to do as it relates to golf. Like the golf is the golf, and we can sit here and talk, and we should talk for a long time about it. But
Mhm.
I'm more interested in what's in people's heads, what's in their hearts, and how does that affect the way that they play golf? How does that affect the way that Rory plays the back nine at Augusta on
Mm.
Sunday with the Grand Slam hanging in the balance? So, Psychology of Money is very good. And then in terms of a golf book, I don't read a ton of golf books, but I'll give a shout out to one of my friends who wrote The Four Foundations of Golf, John Sherman. I don't know if
Oh
you've
yeah,
ever
yeah,
come
yeah.
across
I've read
him.
that. I really like his stuff actually. It's excellent. It's so
It's
practicable and
Oh,
actionable.
it's so good. You read it and you're like, I think I've taken 10 strokes off my handicap and
Yeah.
I haven't even practiced.
No, exactly. Yeah.
I don't know if that's actually true, but he's a great dude, and that's a really it's a really good book if you're interested in playing golf. Even if you play once a month, it can really help you out.
Yeah, nice one. No, they're good recommendations. Yeah, a bit of a different question for you, and you've probably been asked this, but I just find it curious. So we'll say back in the day, Jack Nicklaus was kind of the one to bring in like yardages, pacing out courses, and we'll say maybe Tiger then kind of brought in the revolution in like exercise and conditioning. And it seems kind of nuts that like people didn't know how far the flag was away, or people didn't kind of exercise to stay in shape because that's so like ho hum nowadays. But what do you think the next major breakthrough is in? Like, is it possibly equipment that like in 10 or 15 years we'll look back, at this era perhaps, and we'll be like, wow, they didn't really.
Well, yeah, it's a good question. I think we're seeing it a little bit, and maybe we've already entered this, or maybe we're even past it a little bit, but I think it's data. I think it is
Hmm.
the introduction of um, just we can measure everything now, right?
Hmm.
Like we've got shot link and we've got strokes gained and like all these different things, which are not super complicated things, but I think you're seeing guys use them in meaningful ways more than they used to. So and 25 years ago you didn't have the shot link stuff. You didn't have as granular amounts of data as you have now. So we see like I always reference this, but Luke Kerr-Dineen of Golf Digest did this really, really good video on Scotty Scheffler and how he manages a golf course. Going back to Four Foundations, John Sherman would be proud of Scotty Scheffler, but
Hmm.
how he manages a golf course and how he plays away from pins and how he attacks pins. And I don't know that Scotty is deep in the data game, but I think any player with the information that's out there could be, and you could use it to your advantage to really manage these tour level or major championship level golf courses in ways that were just unavailable 25 or 30 years ago. So I think we're in the middle of that because you still see it scoffed at a little bit the way that
Hmm.
other revolutions have been scoffed at of like, get your strokes gained out of here. I don't care about that. It's whoever shoots the lowest score.
Hmm.
And it's like, well, to shoot the lowest score, I think a lot of guys are starting to turn to the data and maybe too much in some instances, but I think that to me is the next kind of major wave of improvement at the professional level.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's actually a good answer. Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, another one, I asked this question to Shane Ryan, and I feel I got kind of an unsatisfactory answer for myself. So what I asked him was, let's say hypothetically another virus comes in and everyone is kind of like has to isolate and there's no golf,
Hmm.
professional golfers are not allowed to play golf, they're not allowed to swing a club. They're able to kind of stay in shape, whatever. We'll just say hypothetically for 6 months, top 100 in the world, no golf for 6 months. And then there's a tournament. They literally just show up unprepared, haven't hit a ball in 6 months. There's a tournament thereafter. Who do you feel? So what I'm asking you is like, who do you think is the most talented golfer that would doesn't necessarily have to practice so much, and who
Yeah.
would be the best? Who comes to mind when I ask you?
Uh, I think it's talented, but it's also who's playing pretty good golf right now, right? Because if you're not playing it right now, I don't know that you can without practicing if you're going to find it. I mean the way that I always frame this question, I actually think about this question a lot, but I frame it as like if every tournament was 10,000 holes, who would win?
Mhm.
And it's either Scotty or Rory. And I come back to Rory a lot because I think that I think I was talking to somebody on Rory's team one time, and he said, you know, Rory is not like he doesn't put in necessarily the most hours of practice or do the most work or anything like that. His superpower is the ability to stay positive and to be optimistic about things. And
Hmm.
so what that tells me is like his giftings and his talent. Like Scotty is better than Rory right now, but Scotty I think works I don't know about harder at it, but he has to maintain it. He has to work harder to maintain it, I think. I think Rory is the most has the most just innate gifts where it's
Mm.
like 6 months off, everybody's staying in shape. He's gonna go out and like he shoots 65. Like I don't
Yeah.
like I wouldn't blink an eye if he did that, or I wouldn't bat an eye if he did that. So I usually answer Rory to that type of question just because I think he has the most innate gifts.
No, he totally does. Yeah. And I actually kind of have my own story about that. So I live maybe 5 kilometers from a golf course here, and Rory came and played like the local Scratch Cup when he was 16 and 17.
Mm.
But when he came here when he was 16, he was carrying his own clubs. He hadn't seen the course before, and he was playing it off to tips. And one of the members of the golf course showed him around just where to go. I think he just really wanted to see him play, but he was just like, yeah, there's a fairway, hit it down there. But he shot like 67 without ever seeing the
Yeah.
course before. And it's like a relatively challenging golf course. But for a 16-year-old just to turn up, fresh, cold, not seeing anything. It's pretty phenomenal. He is just such raw talent. And then when you combine that obviously with work ethic and persistence, you end up with a grand slams.
Totally. And I think, the thing that I always say, James, is that people don't understand how good, let's say, Seamus Power is at golf.
Mm.
Just to keep it in your part of the world, that people don't understand. Seamus Power is like the best golfer that you've ever seen
Yeah.
by a wide margin. Like if you played with Seamus Power, you'd be like, how does this guy not win everything he
Yeah.
plays?
Yeah.
And Rory is so much better than him, right? And I think that it people lose the context of how good the bad guys on tour are,
Hmm.
and so they don't have context for how good Scotty and Colin Morikawa, Xander, Fleetwood, Rory, how they lose they don't totally, I think, comprehend how good those guys are because they don't have complete context for how good the guys that are worse than them are.
Right. Yeah, I've heard you say before actually you need to be really good to suck on the PGA tour. To lose your card, you need to
Yes.
be elite and
You
one
have
of
to
the
be
best probably.
so good to be terrible on the PGA Tour.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, so you've obviously been to like maybe hundreds of golf tournaments at this point, and if you were just walking up and down the range, is there anyone? Obviously, Rory, Scotty, immaculate like players, strikers, but is there anyone that like you pause and you watch hit golf balls? Is there anyone that just sticks out? Specifically, we'll just say hitting golf balls that is just uber
Yeah,
impressive.
I think Tommy is up there. Tommy
I mean,
Fleetwood. It's he doesn't hit it the farthest, but the flight is really cool. He flights it down. He can move it around. It's a cool swing. It's not, some of those guys you watch their swing and you're like, I think this is just like it's not an art. It's more of a science of like, okay,
hmm
my hands are here and then I put them here and it just it I don't that to me is not aesthetically pleasing. But Tommy's swing is just so unique and so cool, and the way he fights it is so awesome. He obviously doesn't hit it like a Rory or a Hovland or I
I'd
don't
imagine he hits it
whoever
very
else
low, does he?
he does,
Yeah.
and especially like the long irons, it's so cool. Like it
Oh
just
yeah.
look like watching Tommy hit a 3 iron or a 4 iron is just, or even a 3 wood is just the coolest. Like I love watching that.
Okay, nice. Yeah. Yeah, no, he's a great player. So let's see. Yeah, like bit of like a kind of a general question, but what is the best shot you've ever seen in context and in details? What's the best shot that you've ever seen, I guess, under the
Well,
circumstances?
yeah, under the circumstances, gosh, um, like in person, like been there for
Yeah,
it.
yeah, actually being there, kind of like we'll say in the ropes.
Yeah. Um, there's so many that happened at the Masters.
Just previous.
One of one of the first ones that comes to mind is kind of a weird one, but in 2019 when Tiger won the Masters, he had this shot on 16 and it almost went in. And as soon as it, because the pin on Sunday at the Masters is that kind of mid left pin, and it's got, if you catch the slope, you're gonna kind of have a look at it. And he hit it right where it catches the slope, and as soon as it landed, you're like, might go in. And if it had gone in to win the match, obviously he went on to win, but he would have essentially locked it up right there. It would have been I think, the best shot in the history of golf. So that one's up there. I mean, honestly, I was just writing about this because I'm putting together a book about Rory and the 2025 Masters. But the shot that Rory hit into 15 this year was
Hmm.
like
It's a
extraordinary.
joke.
And yeah, for sure. What was interesting about that, James, is when you're out there, you don't have your phone. You don't have, as everybody knows, like you don't have as much information as when you're watching it on TV. So I didn't realize that he was like trying to reach the green. I thought like,
Hmm.
okay, maybe he might be leaving it out to the right here because you're set up right because you're behind the trees.
Yeah.
Maybe he's leaving it out to the right, giving himself an angle into that. I think it was back middle or back left pin, and then the next thing you know, it's like as hard as he can swing, and it's just drawing toward the pin, and that one to me was like that was an all timer and one that I will just no. I mean, yeah, nobody will ever forget.
Did he? He obviously intended to do it. It wasn't like
For sure.
because
Yeah,
it was so
that's
aggressive.
exact.
Yeah, it was such an
Yes.
aggressive shot at the time. A slinging hook with a six iron to like a a green that slopes away for
Well,
you
and I
from you
think
almost.
what was weird about that is he couldn't figure out how to play the back nine because on 13 he was so conservative, right? He lays up to like 100 yards or whatever it was, dumps it in the water, and you're like, maybe you should have just gone for the green there.
Hmm.
And then on 15, he's super aggressive. So he was in a weird space of like he was up by so many shots that
Yeah.
he didn't really I think he didn't really totally know how to play those last six holes. And thankfully he got it done. But yeah, that one was amazing. Even last year at Pinehurst, Bryson's bunker shot was
Mm.
just I mean, it's insane. Like an
Mm.
80 or whatever it was, 90-yard bunker shot to 5 feet or 4 feet for the US Open.
Yep.
That's a joke. Like that's extraordinary stuff. So there's been a lot. Those are a couple that come to mind just in recent major championships.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think that the shot Rory hit on the playoff against Justin Rose, they hit like a fade, which is maybe not his natural shot off the tee. After Justin Rose
Yeah.
like planted one in the fairway, and after obviously missing a 3 foot putt, I think that was just obviously he went on to birdie the hole, but that shot was just so amazing to just recover and gather himself and to hit that shot again was just phenomenal. Um,
Yeah, because your mind is spinning at that point.
yeah.
You're like, I just had my best chance ever. I was up by five to win the Masters and I didn't do it. And so you're thinking about a million different things to settle back in and hit that shot, and then the approach was it was super impressive. It was crazy.
Yeah, I was just that whole day, the whole back nine, I was just looking
Oh
through my hands. I
gosh.
just couldn't see it. It
Yeah.
was just up and down. But yeah, you said you're writing a book about it, is that right?
Yeah, so that's probably overstating it, but we basically are taking all of our master's content from that week. So I wrote 5 or 6 newsletters and just repackaging them into a book. And we're taking all of Jason, our illustrator's illustrations, and putting them in the book and just sort of there's a little bit of new writing in there. So wrote a couple new essays and just some different things that were popping in there. But yeah, it's not like brand new stuff.
Mhm.
It's basically just what we did that week and kind of making it into a book form, which we're excited about.
Okay, fine. And is that going to come out before the end of the year, or what's the timeline on that?
I don't know. We're self-publishing, which is always really difficult because you have to find a printer and you have to ship it, all these different things. But
Mhm.
I think it'll be beginning of 2026, I would think.
Okay, great. Yeah, because I know Alan Shipnuck is like writing a kind of biography on Rory McIlroy. I think it's to come out in like March, and I'm really looking forward to that actually. But now
Yeah,
you've
yeah,
your own stuff, so that's good to hear.
yeah. It'll be fun. Putting together books is always a challenge, but it's one that I enjoy a lot. So hopefully it'll
Hmm.
be a good one.
Awesome. Yeah. Have you actually ever played Augusta?
I have, yeah,
Oh yeah,
2017.
in 2017, right? And did you play it like the day after the event was on?
Yeah, so Sergio Garcia was won that year in a playoff over Justin Rose,
Right.
and I had won the way it happens at the Masters is all the media people put their names in a lottery on Wednesday or Thursday or whatever, and then on Friday they draw names and you either get it or you don't or whatever. I want to say 18 or 24 or 28 people every year.
Okay.
I think it's something like that, maybe 16. I don't know. I don't know what the number is, but then on Monday you show up. for your tee time. You get to hit balls at the tournament practice area.
So cool.
Um,
Did you have your own
and then you
clubs?
go. Yeah, I had my clubs, thankfully, because usually on Mondays, like just I'll go play with friends before I head back home.
Right.
But I had my own clubs, and yeah, it was an amazing experience. It was honestly, it was hard to play because it almost feels like you're on a movie set because you've watched it so many times,
Mm,
and all you're thinking is, well, I'll never get to hit this shot again. And that's a bad swing thought. That's a
right.
terrible swing
Yeah,
thought to
yeah,
have.
yeah.
And so
No
it
mulligans.
was it was difficult. It was difficult to play good golf, but just the experience of it was absolutely incredible. And I think I made, I want to say 5 pars in my last 6 holes. And so I was joking with my playing partners, like, hey, maybe they'll let us go again. Like, I'd love to get 18, 18 more in. They did not, but you do get to change in the champions locker room, and you get
Wow. Get the full
the whole
experience.
experience. It's really special that they do that, and I feel very lucky to have gotten to do it.
And do you still put your name in like every year, or if you played it already, it's kind of like you're
Yeah,
out
if
of
you
the.
play it, you have to sit out 7 years.
Okay,
Um,
jeez.
so so I think this year was my last year to sit out, so I can resubmit next year to play it again.
Okay, nice one. Well, it really is the
Yeah,
most
so
exclusive golf club in the world, isn't it? Like, yeah,
truly, truly, and there's so many media people there that you're like, I might not win it for another 10 years. So yeah,
you're
it's very cool.
yeah. And is it true you're not allowed like behind the ropes, like walking with the players, or are you allowed to do
Yeah,
that as
yeah.
journalists?
That's the only place that as a journalist, as a writer, as a content creator, you can't get an inside the ropes pass. It's just players and their caddies. And that part is, I think players like it because they don't have
Mm.
to deal with any of us clowns inside the ropes or anything like that. But it does it makes it hard to cover sometimes because, like I said, you can't. It's hard to see anything, and you're listening, and you're trying to you're trying to, especially on Sundays, like walking with Rory's group. You're like, I can't see any shot. I'm just kind of
Yeah.
out here, and you
Hmm.
get the experience of it, so it's definitely worth being there. But in terms of seeing shots, I had to come back and rewatch on TV a lot of the shots that I missed because I'm like, I kind of know what happened, but I didn't actually see the shot because I was kind of blocked out by different people.
Right, right. Yeah, I'd imagine the weeks of the majors for you are just so hectic from like Monday to Sunday in terms of like just trying to consume everything and then create content. I'd
Yeah,
say,
yeah, it is.
yeah,
It is, but they're also the most fun weeks. You get to be out there with friends that you've made, and I don't travel a ton, so getting to travel to cool places like where the majors are is like it's a great experience, and you get to be there with friends, and you get to play some golf with friends, and yeah, it's those are amazing, and they're the weeks that people care about the most, right? So people that are reading or listening, you're like, I know people are going to read and listen this week because it's the US Open, because it's the Open Championship, because it's the Ryder Cup. So there is a sense of like, okay, better have my A game this week because people are definitely going to be tuning in.
for sure. And do you generally go to all four majors every year, like for past?
Generally, so like this year I went to the Masters, the US Open, and the Ryder Cup. Did not do the PGA or the Open Championship.
Okay,
That's really just like a budget, like travel. My company's travel budget is
okay,
not very big right now, so
okay.
I'm hopeful to get to the Open next year. And I love going to the Open. It's the best, and PGA should be cool at Aronimink next year also. So ideally I would like to go to all four.
And do you think you'll get the Ryder Cup next year in Ireland?
I would love to. I'm
Yeah.
I'm hopeful that by then our travel budget is big enough to. I mean, the Ryder Cup is like you don't want to miss it, because it's only every 2 years, and it is. If I always tell my friends, if you can go to one golf event, it's not the Masters, it's not the Open Championship, it's not the U.S. Open, it's the Ryder Cup. Like it's I think it's the best sporting event in the world.
Totally. Yeah. I remember I went to it when I was here in Ireland in 2006 in the K Club. I was there for like the Friday and it was just awesome, amazing to see all the US and the European players. But I mean, there's so many people that go to them. You just kind of have to go there, find a spot and just kind of stay
Yep.
there all day. But again, as you said, the atmosphere is like you don't really get that at golfing events. So it's
Yeah, no,
really
you
such a
don't.
novelty.
It's like It's like a football game on a golf course, which is very unique. That's not how any other tournament is. So
Yeah.
I think it's the best experience in golf. It is hard, like you said, it's hard to see and to watch because there's so few players and groups on the course, and so you have to, like you said, you have to pick a spot and stay there. You can't
Hmm.
follow a group
Yeah.
because you have no chance of seeing everything. But once you pick your spot and stay there, it can be a pretty awesome experience.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I'm curious, since you've been covering golf, do you actually get like a lot of time to play yourself?
Uh, no, not really. Just because I do have four kids, and so
Right. Yeah.
it's hard to have time to get out there. But I do travel, or I do play on the road a lot. Like at the U.S. Open at Pinehurst last year, I got to play with Andy and Brendan and some of the Friday guys. At I think it was Mid Pines that we played at. So you play these courses that are you wouldn't normally get to play, but just because they're in the area and you're traveling with friends and some of them have connections or whatever, you get to play some pretty cool places like that.
Nice, yeah. Because for myself, anytime I go and watch pros play in real life or like elitist amateurs, I always just come off, and the next time I play, it's just I just pick up. There's like a residue that I pick up from watching the players. It
Yes.
just helps me play better. Their rhythm, their timing, something about it. So
Yeah,
I'd say being up close to the world's best players as you have for so long, it can only kind of bleed into your own game
totally.
in
And you're
some
like, oh,
aspects.
well, if he can hit that shot, maybe I should try. And usually that doesn't go very well. But there's also just once you've watched the Masters, you're like, oh, I want to go play golf. Which, to
Yeah.
take it back to our earlier conversation, is one of the coolest things about golf because I don't watch the World Series and I'm like, oh, I want to go play baseball. I'm 40. I don't play baseball. So I think that is one really cool part of golf is that it affects you in a very personal way that other sports just don't.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Is there any golf traditions that you hope never change? Is there anything in particular that you really hope that, regardless of all the technological improvements, etc., that you hope just remains the same?
Um, I think these are like I don't know. I don't know if these are actually my two, but the first two that come to mind are the Claret Jug. I think it's the best trophy in sports. I think it's amazing. I think it's better than the Stanley Cup. I think it's just like the coolest trophy in the world. So keep that. Not that they were going to change that. And
Mhm.
then no phones at the Masters. I think it hurts me in my job. Like it makes me it's harder to do my job at the Masters than it is at any other tournament. But I think it's awesome. I think it makes the experience pleasant and fun and delightful. And it's just I don't know if you've been to the Masters, but it makes it makes me look forward to going there. I think more than it would if they allowed phones out on the course.
For sure. Because the thing about it is, when you see people with their phones and they're like, this is closest they're ever going to get to Rory or whoever, they have their phone, they're kind of looking at it through the medium of their phone. And you're like, this
Yeah,
might be the
it's
only time you're
tough.
ever going to see it in real life. So just take it in. And I guess you have that
Yes.
baked into the Masters. People are just like, this might never happen again. So I really have to be present for it. So that's kind of
Yeah, and
beautiful.
I don't even know that they had the foresight to see the revolution of what phones have done to us as a society. I don't know if the
Mm.
Masters saw that coming. Maybe they did. If so, it's like the best foresight that any organization has ever had. But the way that it's gone, you're right. It's almost like it's almost serves as an escape for people to not have their phones, which is funny because we was talking about escaping into your phone on Instagram or whatever, and you're like, no, I actually now because of the ubiquity of cell phones or devices, I escape by not having it. And the Masters is one of the few places that can still assert their will and say like, you actually, because if people did that at, I don't know, I'll keep it in your part of the world at an Arsenal game. If Arsenal no longer allowed phones in their games, people would riot. Like that would not fly, right? But the Masters has done it long enough, and they have enough authority that people are just like, yeah, okay, let's do it, and it makes for a great experience.
Yeah, totally. It's kind of like a safe space for people just to not be on their phones. Very, very
Yep.
beautiful. Yeah, so if you had a crystal ball in front of you and you're looking at golf in 20, 75, 50 years from now, what what do you think that you would see would be the major changes? I know it's such an imaginary question, but like 50 years ago, they did not have like the data we were talking about or lasers or the equipment has come such a long way. And in 50 years' time, I mean, how are things gonna like get 1% or 10% better or like what's gonna be different about playing golf then than now?
Yeah, I think well, my hope is that it doesn't look that much different, because I think the fear is that as you keep improving equipment and technology and workout routines and all that stuff, is that it gets harder and harder every year to go back to St. Andrews for the Open Championship. And I think once you lose St. Andrews as an Open Championship venue, then that's a big deal. I don't, I guess maybe you can still go there, but then you create a scenario where guys are driving 10 greens and you have 8-hour rounds because everybody's driving the green and you're like, this is dumb. Right. Um, so I think that is how it could look different, is that none of the major venues that are currently being used are still used 50 years from now. I hope that's not the case. I hope that the USGA and R&A really kind of curb all this growth in terms of distance. And if you want to bifurcate it for you and I, and we can still hit it far, great. Like we're not in jeopardy of like I think bringing St. Andrews to its knees the way that pros are. So that's my hope, and I guess my hope and my fear are kind of tied together. Of my fear is that places like that will be outdated, and we'll have a whole new set of major courses to go to, which I guess would be okay. But man, I love that we're still playing at St. Andrews, which is where the Open was 120 years ago, 140 years ago, and I
Yeah.
hope that continues to be the case.
Yeah, for sure. I think the crux of it is just the ball. The ball is just going too far. It's doing too
Yep.
much. Like they just need to really roll back the ball. And but do you ever think that's going to happen, or there's just so much pressure from the likes of Titleist and other golf ball companies that they don't want to see their ball
Well,
kind of
they definitely don't want to see it changed. There are plans in place to roll it back here in whatever it is, 2028 or 29, whenever that effect takes place. But I think there's other changes that could be done, James. I think you could reduce the driver head. I saw Rory hitting with a tiny driver at I think it was this week in Dubai at the DP World Tour
Mm.
Championship.
Like a hickory or like an actual
No, it
driver he
wasn't. I
had in
don't
his
think it was
bag.
a hickory. I think it was just like like a really small head, which is, there's a lot of things. People have talked about banning tees, like don't allow tees anymore. You're like, I don't know about that,
You
but
have Laura
I
Davis
think
there coming on.
there's a lot of things you could do outside of just the golf ball to uh, allow pros to still show off their skill and
Mm.
not reduce the skill of hitting it a long ways, which I think is some players' fear. But also to rein in the distance and keep places like St. Andrews as a Marion, for the U.S. Open as legitimate major championship venues. So I
Mm.
hope that the USGA and R&A really think hard about that and work hard toward it. But I don't know. The last 25 years haven't been super encouraging on that front.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. I think we only have a minute or two left, Carl. I want to ask you before you go, have you ever come to Ireland? Have you ever covered golf here or played any golf courses
I
in
have
Ireland?
not. I've been to Scotland. I have been to Ireland, but I was backpacking through Europe. It was not a golf trip. I went to Dublin, and it was cool, but I was only there for like a day.
Okay, right. Yeah, you'll have to come over at some point with your clubs and get around in.
Yes,
Totally.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, it was a pleasure talking to you and thank you so much for coming on. It was a pleasure and keep doing what you're doing. And yeah, we'll talk again, Kyle.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, James. And yeah, it's always fun to chat about golf. I appreciate you asking me.
No, peace. Cheers, bro.